Last episode, we followed two men who drove a red envelope from Los Gatos, California to a Dallas penthouse and watched 10 executives laugh them out of the room. Tonight, we leave Dallas behind. Now we're heading 240 miles south on I-45 to Houston, Texas. Let me give you a number. $40 billion. That's not revenue. That's not market cap. That's not the value of a pipeline, a power plant, or a single cubic foot of natural gas. That's the amount of money that simply did not exist. $40 billion invented, conjured out of spreadsheets and legal loopholes by a group of men in Houston, Texas, who were so convinced of their own genius that they forgot one fundamental rule of physics. What goes up on paper comes down in reality. In the year 2000, Enron Corporation was the 7th largest company in America. Their stock was trading at $90 a share. Fortune magazine had just handed them the Most Innovative Company in America award for the 6th year in a row. The Enron E was on the Houston Astros jersey. United States senators ate foie gras in their private dining room. 14 months later, they filed the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. 20,000 people lost their jobs. Retirement accounts worth billions went to zero overnight. And the shredders ran for weeks. This isn't a story about energy. This is a story about what happens when a company stops selling a product and starts selling a fiction. Let's look at the ledger. Strategy. A roadmap for dominance under uncertainty. The line between a calculated gamble and a slow-motion suicide. Victory is by design. Failure is by default. Before we talk about the fraud, we have to talk about the vision, because here's what the obituaries always get wrong about Enron. They were not always a criminal enterprise. They started as something genuinely revolutionary. The year is 1985. Houston, Texas. Two natural gas companies, Houston Natural Gas and North, merged to form a single pipeline company with one job: move gas from point A to point B. Steady, boring, regulated. The kind of business your grandfather understood. The man tapped to run it was Kenneth Lay, soft-spoken, southern, charming. A PhD economist who believed, with genuine conviction, that deregulation was the future of American energy. And for a moment, he was right. When the federal government began deregulating the natural gas market in the late 1980s, Ken Lay saw an opening no one else was looking at. Instead of just moving gas through pipes, what if Enron became the market itself? What if they stopped being a utility and became a trader? Enter Jeffrey Skilling. Recruited from McKinsey Consulting in 1990, Skilling was the kind of man who wore his intelligence like a weapon. He didn't just think differently, he thought faster, harder, and with a contempt for anyone who couldn't keep up. He looked at Enron's pipeline business the way a chess grandmaster looks at a checkers board. Skilling's idea was audacious. He wanted to transform Enron from a pipeline company into a trading company, not just for natural gas, but for electricity, water, bandwidth, even weather derivatives. He called it the gas bank. Enron would be the middleman for every energy transaction in America. They wouldn't own the fuel. They would own the deal. And to make the numbers look as good as the vision, Skilling pushed for something that would eventually become the murder weapon: mark-to-market accounting. Here's how it works. Traditional accounting is simple. You make money. You record money. You made it, you have it, it's real. Mark-to-market is different. Under mark-to-market, the moment you sign a contract, even a 20-year energy deal, you book the entire estimated future value of that contract as profit, today, right now, before a single dollar has changed hands. Skilling sold this to the SEC in 1992 as a more accurate reflection of Enron's true value. The SEC approved it, and in doing so, handed Enron a loaded weapon with no safety on it. Because here's the strategic trap buried inside that approval. Once you start booking future profits as present profits, you need an endless supply of new deals just to maintain the illusion. You are running, permanently, on a treadmill set to maximum speed. The moment the deals slow down, the whole machine flies apart. But in the mid-1990s, nobody was thinking about that. Enron was expanding into electricity, into global markets, into broadband. They opened offices in London, Portland, and Tokyo. They built a trading floor in Houston that looked like NASA's mission control. Hundreds of traders, billions of dollars changing hands every hour. The crooked E was climbing, and from the outside, it looked like the future. Friction, the hidden operational tax that drains capital. The resistance encountered when a machine fights itself. Momentum is expensive. Drag is fatal. Let's open the vault on the friction point. Because at Enron, the friction wasn't a competitor. It wasn't a disruptive technology. It wasn't a government regulation. The friction was the truth. And they spent a decade building an architecture specifically designed to hide it. By the late 1990s, Enron had a problem. The mark-to-market machine needed fuel, an endless supply of big deals with big projected profits. But many of those deals were losing money in the real world. The broadband division was hemorrhaging cash. The international ventures, a power plant in India, projects in Brazil and the United Kingdom, were disasters. Hundreds of millions of dollars gone. Under normal accounting, those losses would show up on the balance sheet. The stock price would drop. Investors would ask questions. Enron's answer was a man named Andrew Fastow. Fastow was Enron's chief financial officer, a 36-year-old financial engineer who was, by every account, a genius at making debt invisible. His solution was a network of off-balance sheet partnerships, shell companies, entities that existed on paper, controlled by Fastow himself, specifically designed to absorb Enron's losses and bad assets, and make them disappear from the official financial statements. Think about what this means. Enron could take a failing investment, sell it to one of Fastow's shell companies, book a profit on the sale, and remove the liability from their books entirely. The debt didn't go away. It was just moved to a room the auditors weren't supposed to look in. And the auditors, Arthur Andersen, one of the most respected accounting firms in the world, signed off on it every quarter for years. The friction point here is what I call the accounting blackout. When a company's financial statements no longer reflect reality, you don't have a business anymore. You have a story, and stories, no matter how well told, eventually end. By 2000, Enron's stock hit $90 a share. Skilling was named CEO. Ken Lay became chairman. The men at the top were selling their shares, quietly in small blocks, while simultaneously telling employees and investors that Enron had never been stronger. Inside the company, a small number of people knew something was catastrophically wrong. An analyst named Bethany McLean at Fortune magazine asked a simple question in March 2001. How exactly does Enron make its money? Nobody could give her a straight answer. In August 2001, a vice president named Sharon Watkins walked into Ken Lay's office and handed him a memo. It said in plain language, "I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals." Ken Lay thanked her for her concern and referred the matter to the law firm that had helped structure the deals in the first place. The shredders started running the following month. Autopsy, a post-mortem exam to discover the cause of collapse, dissecting the exact moment the heart stopped beating. We look for the fracture in the foundation. The collapse, when it came, was fast, brutally, almost mercifully fast, except there was no mercy in it. October 16th, 2001. Enron announces a $1 billion charge against earnings, buried in the footnotes. The LJM partnerships, the SPEs, the hidden debt. For the first time, the architecture of the fraud was visible if you knew where to look. The SEC launched an investigation. Investors started asking questions. The stock dropped from $90 to under $10 in less than 60 days. Employees, who had been encouraged to hold their 401k accounts in Enron stock, watched their retirement savings evaporate in real time, while the company's own pension plan was locked from selling shares. Lay and Skilling had already sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of their own. On December 2nd, 2001, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. At the time, It was the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Approximately $2 billion in employee pension savings gone. Jeff Skilling was convicted of multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy and sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. Andrew Fastow received 6 years. Ken Lay was convicted on all counts, but died of a heart attack before his sentencing. His conviction was vacated as a result. The human cost of the collapse didn't stop at retirement accounts. In January 2002, as federal subpoenas began arriving, Cliff Baxter, Enron's former vice chairman, one of the few executives who had actually raised concerns internally and resigned months before the collapse, was found dead in his car in Sugar Land, Texas. A gunshot wound, ruled as suicide. He was 43 years old. The investigation was still just beginning. The verdict hadn't come. But for Cliff Baxter, the weight of what he knew and what he couldn't stop had already arrived. Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm that signed off on the fraud for nearly a decade, was convicted of obstruction of justice. One of the most prestigious accounting firms in American history, 89 years old, 28,000 employees, was destroyed, gone within a year of the verdict. Here is the cause of death. It was not complexity. It was not bad luck. It was not a market downturn or a rogue trader. Enron died because its leadership made a deliberate choice at every level, in every year, to prioritize the appearance of success over the reality of it. They built a machine designed to produce a story instead of a product. And they hired smart enough people to maintain that story for nearly a decade. The friction point was the moment mark-to-market accounting met human greed, the moment the tool became the purpose, the moment the ledger stopped being a record of reality and started being a work of fiction. In the end, the only thing Enron was truly innovative at was the lie. I'm Cade Sterling. The vault is closed on case number 3. Next time on the Lone Star Report, we leave Houston and we travel to a small country in northern Europe, Denmark, to a town called Billund. Population, 6,000. To a family-owned company that makes plastic bricks for children. In 2003, that company posted the worst financial results in its 70-year history. It was hemorrhaging $1 million a day. The banks were circling. The board was in crisis. Every analyst on Earth was writing the obituary. They didn't just survive. Within 4 years, they became the most profitable toy company on the planet. Not because they got lucky, because one man picked up a single brick and made the most painful strategic decision in the company's history. The lesson here isn't about toys. It's about the surgical precision of knowing what to cut and having the courage to cut it. Lego, the brick that almost broke. Case number 4, we're opening the vault. See you then.